Hi, my name's Jeremy. I'm the founder and CEO of Rent Better, and welcome to today's webinar on increasing rental prices. It's really topical at the moment. Obviously, coming out of lockdown or of this pandemic period, there's been a lot of rental decreases over that time just due to hardships and a number of differing situations. So at the moment, what we're seeing across the country is an increase in demand, an increase in prices, and obviously it's on people's mind. It hits their side wallet, it hits their bank account, so they want to know if there's an opportunity to increase rental prices. Look, the first step that we talk about in this is obviously understanding supply and demand. There is absolutely no point in pushing up prices or trying to get an extra few dollars a week if the alternative to that is losing your tenant and having no one to backfill them. So it's really important before you get started, number one, understanding what does the market look like, what are some of the prices in the market that you can compare to. Is there a market that on the basis that your tenant didn't accept and decided to leave, that they might in fact leave you in a bad place? And if you do the sums on losing a week or two of rent in order to gain maybe a 5% or thereabouts increase, I think you'll quickly come to the realization that sometimes making sure that your bases are covered first is worthwhile. The second thing to note once you've covered off supply and demand is the actual process of doing it. How do you actually do it? When do you do it? And so there's typically in each state slightly different, timeframes or regulations around it. But the general rule of thumb is you can't increase the rental price in a fixed term lease unless you had it actually listed at the beginning in the lease agreement as to how you were going to do it or when you were going to do it. So, and sometimes in certain states, there might be a rule about you can only do it once in 12 months. So there's just a little bit of check on when you can do it. Assuming you're coming to the end of a fixed term period, then there'll be notice periods. Now, again, each state or jurisdiction will have slightly different dates and time frames. You know, a couple of them you'll see sort of 30 days or maybe 8 weeks or 2 months. The very typical thing to see is about 60 days notice. But again, we would recommend checking the specifics for your particular state. Issuing a specific notice to your tenant that says on this date, the rent will move from this price to this price, and a start and end date on that, or basically if it's going to be ongoing and periodic, just that it's going to happen from that date. And just making sure that it's very clearly outlined to both you and tenant what the changes are. There's obviously, in any sorts of self-management or any sorts of rental management for that matter, a communication exercise. You and your tenant are in fact in an agreement together. You might say as the landlord that your tenant is your customer. So you want them to feel that they're being treated right and communicated to in the correct and appropriate way. And I think as we hear most of our customers say to us, if you treat your tenants well, they'll treat your property well, they'll treat you well, and it all makes sense from there. So that's our webinar on increasing rental prices. If you've got any questions, please feel free to email us at info@rentbetter.com.au. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really wonderful to have you here. Thank you.